Today is time to talk solar power because it is time for the first quarter report of the solar panels that we had installed back in October. So some background for those of you who haven't been following my blog. In October, my husband and I finally decided that it was time for us to get solar panels on our roof. We have been talking about solar energy and alternative green energy for a long time. Back when we lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we bought this mess of a foreclosure of a house, and we were convinced that as we fixed the house and as we renovated it, we were going to do all sorts of really fun green technology. That didn't happen the way we were planning to because we had to replace our furnace within a matter of months after we moved in, and we were broke. So thinking about going geothermal and looking at all other options pretty much went out the window as we were working on it. So we gave up that dream, at least temporarily. And then when we moved to Texas, we were like, hey, we moved further south. It's hot in the summer. Sun shines a lot more. Maybe it's time for us to start thinking about solar panels. But the technology was still improving. The battery technology was still improving. It's a huge expense, and we just weren't ready to make that commitment yet. So we didn't. We waited. And finally last summer, my husband decided to start looking at, for real, start really looking at options and seeing what different companies were offering. And it was an absolute must for us that if we were going to get solar panels, we had to get the battery backup. We had to have some way for us to store the extra energy so that we could use it at night, and also so that we could use it in case of an emergency. We do live in Houston. We do get hurricanes. We did live through Harvey. And while we only had a short power outage during Harvey, we had experienced enough power outages from just random things like rainstorms and the breaker behind our house getting hit by squirrels, true story, that we decided it was probably time for us to make sure that we had some way to have backup power. So we did it. In October, we had the solar panels installed. They were active by mid-November, and I decided to start tracking the difference that it made for us in December, because that was the first full month that we had it. In December, we were so excited because we thought, hey, look, we're not using air conditioning. It is possible we're not going to use our furnace that much, so we'll probably have limited electrical usage, and it will be great because we won't be using that much electricity, and we should be golden. But we forgot that December is the shortest month of the year. Even though we live in Houston and closer to the equator, we're not that close to the equator, and it's the furthest from the sun in December. The days are short, and we were just surprised, and probably shouldn't have been, that we didn't generate that much solar electricity. We did. We raised enough solar electricity to save a lot of money, to save some money at least, and to save some of the pressure on the grid. And then we got to January, and January was, better. The sun shone more, it was brighter, it was better, and we did pretty well. So we were pretty proud of ourselves in January. And we were really careful and starting to watch because we could track our electrical usage. We would track how many kilowatts we were using. We were watching what time of day we were doing laundry, what time of day we were also running the dishwasher and everything else. So that was happening. Then February hit, and we thought, oh, this is going to be great because, the days were getting longer and it was getting a little bit warmer, and we were doing really well. In fact, if you actually look at our numbers, we doubled our solar production from January to February, even though February is 3 days shorter than January. The problem, we got that winter storm that hit Houston. And that winter storm that hit Houston made an impact on everybody. It was the entire state we were under snow and ice. The majority of the state lost power at some point. We just had friends losing power all over the place, all over the city. We had one friend staying with us from Monday night on because his power went out on Sunday night. And we got lucky because we were like, okay, so our power hasn't gone out yet. And we thought that we might get to the end of all of this without the power going out. And then Wednesday night, our power finally went out. And our power walls held steady because they wouldn't drain. They were under a power watch. They were under a storm watch, and so we weren't allowed to use our power walls. They wouldn't let us. Tesla wouldn't let us, and the devices themselves wouldn't let us until our power actually went out. So Wednesday night the power went out. As I was making dinner, we shut every single light off that we could. We unplugged things. We just did everything we could to save power. And the power held steady for 17 hours. In fact, when the grid went back on for our house 17 hours later, we still had 23% battery left. And so we could have gone for probably another 2, 3, 4 hours max, I think, without losing our ability to keep our furnace on, which is a gas furnace, but still has a electrical blower. And our refrigerators plugged in and freezers plugged in and everything like that. So we did everything we could to conserve that energy, and it lasted for almost 24 hours. The problem was our solar panels were completely covered in snow, and I'm going to include pictures of those at the end of this video, but they were completely covered in snow. So while the day after the storm, it was pretty bright and sunny, we weren't generating any electricity. No matter what we did, there was nothing we could do about it. We couldn't reach our roof, and we couldn't clear them of the snow and ice, and so the snow and ice was blocking our ability to generate electricity. So in the end, it benefited us because we still had power. We were able to keep the necessities on. We were careful, but we were able to keep the necessities on during that 17-hour period. If it had gone on like some of our friends had with 48 hours or longer, I don't think we would have lasted that long. But at least we would have bought ourselves a little bit of time. And we would have bought ourselves some warmth, which was also really important because down here it got really, really bad. I mean, Texas is not used to that kind of weather. Even though we're from the Midwest, we were not prepared for that kind of weather down here because we just don't have the ability to take care of it. We just don't have anything down here that helps with that cold and helps with that snow and that ice. So we got through it, and we benefited from the solar panels. In general, like, this is my 3-month report. They're great. We actually see a lot of benefit to them. We're excited to see what spring looks like because we want to see, with the longer days and the warmer days, but not having to necessarily turn on the air conditioning. We're hoping that it will mean some pretty good solar production, but also some money savings. It was really irritating to listen to the news and to see our Texas politicians going after green energy and going after green tech and saying that the solar power, which only is 4% of the state is powered by solar, and wind energy, which is still a fair minority of the state is powered by wind, even though West Texas has wind farms everywhere. It was irritating to see them all talking about how it was green tech was at fault. It was all green tech's fault, and even though it was the companies that hadn't planned, and it wasn't green tech's fault. In fact, if there had been more green energy and if they had prepared for the snow and ice, then more people would have been able to have their power on. More people would have had options and would have had a backup plan. It's just so expensive and so cost prohibitive, and we know that. Like, we spent the money and we made the investment, but it was a big decision to make that investment because we didn't know what the future held, and we were just kind of like, well, we're just going to take this leap of faith and see if this benefits our family and how this benefits our family, because we also know how important it is to invest in green technology. So we thought if we could do our part and invest in green technology, that'd be great. So that's what we did. And if more people did that, the prices would go down and more people would have been able to take pressure off of the grid. And no, you couldn't have accounted for the snow and ice. There were a lot of people who have solar in Texas that were like, what are we going to do? Our solar panels are covered. And there was nothing they could do about it. But having the batteries to back everything up and to collect that extra energy, it gave us the reprieve that we needed. And it was well worth it. So that's my 3-month report. I wasn't expecting my 3-month report from the first 3 months of us having solar to be full of information about snow and ice because we live in Texas, and that is not February for us. In fact, February is what it is today, typically, which is bright and sunny and nearing 60 and just absolutely gorgeous. And so this is March now, beginning of March, and we're hoping that we can continue to have a lot of good production. Yesterday was not so great because it was really dark and rainy. So I think our grand total solar production was 6 kilowatts and we used 40. So we did not have huge savings yesterday, but today the solar panels are doing a lot of work and I already can see the numbers climbing. So anyway, I'm looking forward to our spring report. But this is our winter report, and I hope that it helps anybody who's thinking about it. And at the end of this video, I will include pictures of what our solar panels look like with the snow on them, as well as our production numbers for December, January, and February. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.